Well, thank you, Dan, for spending your time today to share your views on mass customization. Can you start by providing a brief background of yourself?
Sure, and thank you for inviting me on your blog, Dustin. So, I'm currently president of Pinnacle IT, which is a custom software and network management company located in Waterville, Maine, and we do some very interesting high-end programming for a number of different companies, both regionally and in some cases nationally. And my background, as we were talking before we started the recording, I actually was in the Far East for a number of years, working in a number of different roles, but ultimately ending up in IT. And then when I moved back from there, I was a management consultant at Coopers and Lybrand for a number of years, and then shifted to IT, having various gigs with companies like Xerox and Timberland. And most recently, I was the VP of Information Systems at VIP Parts, Tires, and Service in Lewiston, Maine. And last year, I moved over and kindled my entrepreneurial spirits by taking over Pinnacle. And Pinnacle is a company that's been in business for 17 years, having been founded by Pam Kick, who is now VP of Sales and Operations Planning and the CFO.
Thank you. And can you talk about what is mass customization?
So, we're at the cusp, if not already in the middle of this amazing change in manufacturing and consumption. And the old paradigm was that you built to scale and you price things cheaply. And in today's world, with various advancements in information technology, supply chain, and actually the mechanical aspects of production, you now are able to produce items in a very small scale for the same cost that you could in the past produce them at a very large scale. And so that's really revolutionizing the way products are built and the way they're sold and the way they're purchased. So, a good example of that is the recent trend in 3D printing, where you basically download a design and you manufacture your own product, and you can obviously customize it to your heart's content because you control how it's produced.
And can you talk about why mass customization is important?
Well, I mean, it turns the whole notion of the industrial infrastructure on its head. It takes us back to the old days where you essentially had a number of distributed artisans making things for people on a bespoke basis, and then you had the Industrial Revolution, where you had these giant factories, producing items to scale and having to produce thousands and millions of widgets in order to be economically effective. And of course, that spawned globalization and supply chains extending out to China. And all that is about to change, where people will be able to produce things on demand, exactly what they want, rather than having to buy something that somebody sells them that they might not need. So it has enormous implications in terms of society, in terms of the economy, in terms of international relations. But I think the bottom line is, I think it's pretty good news for the U.S., and it might not be that great for countries that rely on mass production like China.
And where have you seen some success?
Well, we're just on the cusp of this, and again, it's 3D printing is one example. But more recently, I've been reading some very fascinating articles about the impact this will have on pharmaceuticals, bioengineering, where essentially you will be able to decode your own genome and have companies build custom or bespoke pharmaceuticals to just treat exactly what ails you. So we're not quite there yet, but I think.
How is software evolving to influence supply chains and how supply chains serve customers?
Great question, Dustin. So, supply chains really came to the forefront in the late 80s and early 90s, and had some great work done by companies like PRTM and the Supply Chain Council, published best practices and reference models. And now, with the advent of the internet and cloud computing and advances in software engineering, what's happening is that we can extend supply chain and integrate it on the back end with other key business functions like customer service, sales, as well as manufacturing, and essentially create unique supply chains for specific types of customers. And we can do that by extending legacy systems, building enterprise frameworks around sort of silos, and connecting things that used to be siloed to the internet. We can plug things like predictive analytical engines that are cloud-based to legacy systems. We can plug external business rules engines that drive the way call centers, for example, respond to customer requests and drive the supply chain. So all of that is really starting to have a major impact on the ability of companies to service their customers in very different ways than they were able to do that in just the recent past.
That sounds fascinating, and I look forward to hearing updates on how this develops in the near future.
Yeah, we've actually got some interesting projects at Pinnacle that are doing just that for various companies. So I'll be glad to do that.
Can you,
Hey,
Dan, can you talk a little bit about predictive analytics and how it relates to supply chains and the cutting edge supply chains?
Yeah, well, this is very interesting. So, the traditional concept, has been, for the supply chain is around the forecast. And, newer views, more advanced views of supply chain by people like Richard Sherman from the Supply Chain Council, who just, by the way, published an excellent book that I highly recommend, talk about demand management. So what does that really mean? It means bringing fulfillment together with demand creation and managing it. And one of an interesting aspect of demand creation is being able to apply predictive analytics and looping it back to your supply chain. So what does that mean? It means having some very powerful engines constantly looking at what consumers are buying, how they're behaving, and then looping that back to the kinds of offers that are made to the customers almost real time through their websites or their contact center sales systems. And by being able to have this continuous feedback loop, you actually develop a very agile demand management system that can change things like prices, can put together custom offers that customers will pick up. And by being aware of both kind of how the customer behaves and your supply chain, you're really able to do some demand management, which is where supply chains are going.
Sounds fascinating. Thank you.